Common advice for new indie game developers is to not make your first game your dream game, as it's very likely to fail. So, for my first game, I tried to make my dream game and sold about 30 copies in over a year, objectively making it a financial failure, and it failed to find an audience. But I actually listened to that common advice. My goal was not to make my dream game. It was to try and make my dream game. I knew that I was likely to fail in a lot of ways, but I would also learn a lot of the skills I wanted, such as learning how to make an online multiplayer game, because that's what I wanted a career doing. And even after 4 years, by trying to make my dream game, I was able to stay passionate, and I was able to learn and succeed at a lot of the goals I had when I started, and I even learned more than I expected. But, of course, I failed in a lot of ways. And a year after release, I'm still continuing to learn from and remedy those failures. So here's a little backstory on how I made the game. It started back in 2021. At the time, I was learning Unity to make some self-driving cars and some other small projects like that. And one of my friends saw that I kind of knew how to make games, so he was like, hey, let's make a prototype of a game together and see how it goes. We made a prototype, had some friends over, and played it, and it was a lot of fun. And also, around this time, I was getting interviews in the game industry, and a lot of them recommended I make a game to develop the skills I was lacking. So from there, I formed a small company with my friends, and made a design document, and committed to making this game. And after 3 years of working on it, going to Sweden and meeting tons of other developers and then coming back to the US, I released the game and it sold about 20 copies in the first month. And from there, I used most of my savings that I set aside for this project. So now I'm looking for work while working solo on Brawlers of Duality to keep me sane during the job search while I fix up a lot of the ways that it failed. This is the first large game project that I have ever worked on. So I knew it was going to fail in a lot of ways, especially with quality, because I had no skills when I started, so a lot of the stuff I put into the game was stuff that I was learning to do for the first time. But by committing to finishing and releasing this game, I was able to learn a lot, especially from all the places I failed. And I learned skills that I didn't even expect on learning, like 3D modeling, animating, drawing, how to run a business, and I'm still learning from my failures of marketing and the lack of polish. Over the last year, I also learned to look at myself and my game more critically, but in a way that doesn't hurt myself or burn me out. What I think is another big failure of this game was my marketing. Marketing starts as early as choosing the genre of the game and designing the core. Since Brawlers of Duality was first and foremost meant to be a way for me to learn how to make online multiplayer games, I didn't even look into the market or anything around that. So I didn't realize why so few indie games are multiplayer only. Multiplayer only games need a player base to succeed. But I was unwilling to do advertising because I was scared of getting negative criticism. I was also scared of learning to do advertising in general because I thought if I did a bad job while learning to advertise, it would make the game look even worse and devalue my hard work. I was also scared to show early builds of the game to strangers for the same reason. But I decided to go over to Sweden to live with a bunch of other developers, and we did playtesting every week, and that way I was able to get exposed to feedback from strangers in a healthy way, where I was able to grow from it and get over that fear a lot. And then once I returned to the US, with the support of my boxing coach Lewis, I was able to start making and releasing small devlog videos, no matter the quality. So these small videos went over what I was working on week to week, and the ones I really liked were the ones where I tried to teach people how to do things like make behavior trees, and I want to get better at that now too. So now, when I make my next game, I know how important it is to share the process, not only for marketing, but to get feedback, not be stuck in your own head, get encouragement, and also to help others along the way too, because sharing your journey can motivate them. As I hinted to earlier, one of the ways I thought my game failed was its inability to find an audience. That's partially because I made a multiplayer game that had no player base. So, for the last year, I've been working on adding a single player mode inspired by roguelikes and fighting game arcade modes so that players who have already bought the game at least have something to play now. By addressing this failure of being multiplayer only, I also got to learn how to make NPCs, got to learn and write dialogue and do table reads, and a bunch of other fun stuff. By looking at the ways my game failed and addressing them, I'm not only making myself better, but I'm learning new skills and making the game better. So I would love if you tried out the demo and gave me some feedback and helped me find bugs, because this mode is still under development. With the help of my coach Lewis, I realized the biggest thing I learned while working on this game was to be okay with failing, and just try and do your best every day. If you keep doing the best you can, you'll keep learning, and you can't help but be proud of yourself and what you're making, and even when you fail, you'll be able to continue to learn. I am proud of all the effort I put into this game, even though it failed in a lot of ways. Don't let the fear of failing stop you from making and sharing something you're passionate about. Learn from and enjoy the failure along the way, and you'll be able to make something you're proud of. As for what's next for Brawlers of Duality and myself, I just finished the anniversary patch where I got all the content from the single player mode that I was planning on adding. I got all of that in there, and I'm going to keep working on the game for a bit more to fix up the bugs and polish it, and then we'll see how I feel about the game from there. So, thank you so much for watching, and thanks for all your support, and keep making stuff, and be proud of your work, even the failures.